Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. Hello there.
Hi there.
So we have a really pretty cocktail that I'm looking at that I haven't tried yet, but I'm eager to. Mm-hmm. This is called the White Lady. It's a classic cocktail. It goes way, way back. And I actually ran across it in a book that my son gave me for Christmas called Booze and Vinyl, which, you guys, it's a great book. And I'm gonna pull more cocktails from it through the course of this season. But basically what it does is it pairs cocktails with music and food.
Okay.
And so it's like if you were going to do a cocktail party and you were going to listen to David Bowie, then it gives you like 3 cocktails and a couple of snacks and which songs to listen to and how to do a drop the needle and basically it's an album. So they choose one album. It's not like the whole Bowie catalog.
Well, right.
I think it's so smart. And so we're going to be doing some of the cocktails from that.
Okay. I love Bowie so much that it's lovely that you just brought that up. So.
Well, he is one of the artists. So our cocktail, it has Tanqueray gin. It has Grand Marnier, which is an orange liqueur. You can also use triple sec. It has lemon juice. It has a little simple syrup to sweeten it up. And it has an egg white.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's frothy.
So it's frothy. And I'm going to try it.
All right, me too.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is lovely. It's like a really soft gin sidecar.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I could drink that.
I could drink that too. In fact, I will.
Maybe we should just not have this conversation and just go and drink the White Ladies and then come back.
Yeah, okay. It might make it more entertaining
for our listeners. Okay, but we're not going to do that because I'm supposed to, at least from time to time, make sense. So, what are we talking about?
Today we're going to talk about worldview, specifically biblical worldview. Does a biblical worldview exist? And if so, is it something that we can aspire to have? I'll preface this.
Thank you. I need context here, man.
Where I grew up, there was a worldview that was determined by the doctrine of the church.
Okay.
Of this particular church that I grew up in, this denomination, small denomination. And there was a worldview that we were supposed to have, and it involved looking at the world through a lens that was kind of afraid all the time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kind of scared of everything.
Okay.
At least that's the way that I've interpreted it now.
Right.
Because there were all these things that we were told we shouldn't do.
Okay.
Because it would open us up to, demonic influence, or open us up to things we oughtn't think about or spend our time doing, or whatever. And so that worldview was based on their interpretation of the Bible.
Okay.
Other churches have other ways of telling their people, this is how you should behave in the world, or this is, what God expects of you.
Okay. As
a member of this church and as a follower of Jesus, this is what's expected. So a worldview based on the Bible as interpreted by whoever it is that's telling you this is what your worldview should be.
Okay.
And this is problematic, I think, for a number of reasons. First of all, the Bible isn't a book, it's a bunch of books. And each book is different. Some books are history, some books are poetry, some books are laws. And the audience of each of these books is different, even the Gospels. Each of the Gospels is kind of written for a different audience. So to say that there is one worldview to be derived from the collective of all of these books, to me feels like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I heard the phrase biblical worldview was now a number of years ago. And it was in the context of, I want to say it was John Piper, one of those guys, one of those kind of classically horrendous people. Sorry, John Piper. But it was this idea that if you had a biblical worldview, it was A, conservative, B, not Jewish, even though Judaism is most of the Bible. It was this kind of odd sort of Christianesque, Greekish, 613 laws-ish kind of. I mean, I never really quite understood it. There was a book, I want to say I forgot the name of it. There were two books. It was one where a man tried to live out the Bible's laws for a year, and there was another one where a woman tried to live out the Bible's laws for a year. And they reflected on that.
Okay.
But the idea that you can look through a book that covers a couple thousand years of history in multiple places with multiple contexts as one worldview is just a little weird. Like, even if you want to come up with the idea that, okay, God wrote the Bible, he just used a bunch of people to do it. The idea that there is one way, no. Okay, here's what it is. Suppose you took 2,000 people and you put them all in the same location, and they're all from the United States. Let's make them all from California. Okay? Which everybody thinks everybody in California has the same point of view. So let's just start there. Okay? You take 2,000 people, one for each year, and you put them in the same space in California. You ask them questions about how long skirts should be.
Right.
Or what are the appropriate colors to wear on Sunday? Or, can you drink it? Whatever. It doesn't, pick whatever you think the topic of the Bible is.
Right.
Because there's one topic in the Bible, and we all know that. But imagine if you talk to one for each year of those 2,000 people and you ask them this question: would you get a single point of view? No. Suppose they were all white and all of their families came from Germany, Holland, and I'm making stuff up, France. Would you still get that? No. So this whole idea that there's a single worldview across a couple thousand years, even if God whispered into each person's ears, right, this. The idea that they would see the world the same way in their context makes no sense.
Right.
Which goes back to what you said, which is really that whenever we're told there's some kind of a worldview that is definable and perfect, it's the perfect problem, right? Definable, perfect, and we should all live by it. We should become immediately suspect. All of our antennas should go up and go beep, 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 like that.
That's right.
Right? Now, if somebody said to me, particularly if a person of color, and you can pick any stripe of this, a person of color, particularly a queer person of color, but anybody who comes from whatever the non-dominant culture is in our country, and it doesn't matter how many people there are, it's about what kind of rules the world.
Yeah.
If they said something like a, Anglo-European American worldview, I can kind of get behind that because it is actually narrowed over a couple hundred years, and there's been effort to maintain it in a particular way. That's just not what was going on across those couple thousand years. People weren't trying to say, well, now we have a worldview and we want to maintain our power over everybody else. Because, first of all, they didn't have it. But we want to maintain our power over everybody else, so we're going to convince them that this is the right way to live. In fact, the Jews, the historic Israelites and Hebrew people, knew that their view was not the rest of the world's view.
Right. Of course they did.
Right? Yeah. So just this whole idea that there is a single perspective from which the Bible is written that reflects God's intentions for all of humankind over all time, that was magically somehow put together over the 2,000 years in the, I've forgotten how many books are in the Old Testament, let's call it 40, and then tracked perfectly into the New Testament, which took place from a Greek worldview, yes, and it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
So it's really not about the Bible at all.
No, it's not about the Bible at all.
I may have just ranted a minute. I'm really sorry, folks. I may have just kind of gone on a little rant. Sorry.
No, that was actually really, really useful, I think, what you said. First of all, a worldview, I think, is a highly individualized matter. I think our worldview is informed by everything that we've experienced since we've been on Earth. Mm-hmm. So it's the way we were raised. It's the part of the country we grew up in. Mm-hmm. It was, whether we ate meat or not. It was about how we spent our Sundays. It's about whether we had close relationships with our extended family or not. It was about all these things inform our worldview.
Yes.
So every person on the planet has a different worldview.
Okay.
Because it is informed by what we've experienced. Now, people can adjust their worldview if they're trying to be like somebody else, or if they're trying to follow a certain doctrine, we'll say, or a certain, expectation.
Okay.
There was a season in my life where, I was trying to talk myself out of feeling certain ways, and so I felt it was important for me to gravitate toward a more conservative point of view on most things.
Yep.
But it actually didn't change how I saw the world. I think it changed what I allowed to try and influence me, and some of those things did influence me.
Yep.
But I don't think it actually changed how I experienced the world.
Agreed.
To think that we all, as people of faith or Christians or however you want to frame it, should have the same worldview is that's not possible.
I don't think that's what these people are saying. I don't think they're saying we should have the same worldview. I think they're saying we should live with a particular worldview as our model.
As our model, sure.
So I'm going to go back to your experience as a Christian songwriter. Okay. You were early in your career in these ways, and it isn't like this was your first introduction to music, but in terms of thinking about writing for a particular purpose in a particular way, that was early in your career. And there is here's where that idea of a worldview actually becomes powerful, if you will, from an external. You knew that you needed to write in a particular way about particular topics, avoid some topics, get into other topics, hit these kinds of rhythms, not hit those kinds of rhythms. If you had done reggae, it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? All those kinds of things. So you start to understand the box that you needed to live in.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And I would say that affected your worldview about Christian music for at least a season.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get at.
Sure. Okay.
Right? So if somebody tells you that you're supposed to have a biblical worldview when you follow Jesus, what they're really saying is, here's a box. This is the correct box through which to view everything that might have to do with Jesus. Please climb in.
Right.
Right? And it makes sense when we're talking about something like the job you're being paid to do, particularly if you're doing something that has a marketability, like where you've got to put a box around it, honestly, in order to sell it. If I'm selling beagle dogs, right, they can't be, 4 feet high and have, you know what I mean? It's like they're not beagles, right? So if you're selling Christian contemporary music, it's got to sound a particular way, whatever, right? Yeah. That's fine. But we're not talking about Christian contemporary music. We're not talking about dogs. We're talking about the way people live their lives. And if somebody tells you that you're supposed to have a biblical worldview in order to be a Jew, or in order to be a Christian, or in order to be a Muslim, or in order to be anything, you got to ask them, so which biblical worldview exactly are you asking me to have? Do you want me to be Eve and be naked? Because we can talk about that one. Do you want me to be Abraham's wife and laugh when you tell me something ridiculous like this? Which exactly position are you trying to get from? Because even if you take the way they thought about marriage all the way through the Bible, it changes.
Yes.
Okay? This idea of one man, one woman, because it reflects the way that God made us, does not exist. Like, it actually literally does not exist anywhere in the Bible. There's a slight allusion to it in the New Testament, but it's really about kind of keeping everything orderly than it is about anything else. So, like those kinds of things.
Right.
I mean, I understand the point of it. I think it has a purpose, but the purpose is not actually to guide our spiritual relationship with God. It's a way to keep us under control. And I don't say that very often, but I think that's what it is.
I think that's what it is too. So as it pertains to worldviews, I think that we do seek to have a worldview. If we're serious about following Jesus,
yes,
we want to have a worldview that is as close to the way Jesus saw and experienced the world as we can get, or at least we want to understand a bigger picture that perhaps you can get if you're spending time with God. You get to know kind of who God is as best we can, and you start to try to see people the way that God values people. Try to see people as being everyone is in God's image, in other words.
Okay.
As Christ followers, that is something that we can aspire to. But I don't think that God expects us all, because we don't have the same DNA. I don't think God expects us all to think or see or feel the same.
I would agree with you completely on that.
And I think that we gravitate toward certain churches and we gravitate toward certain groups of people, and we do seek community, whatever that means for you, but we do seek a place where we feel that we can be ourselves and explore who we are and learn from other people. Mm-hmm. And many times church can do that. Sometimes it isn't church. Mm-hmm. But I think that our worldviews broaden and become different over time as we mature, as we get to know ourselves better, as we experience more of the world, and as we seek to follow Jesus. But I wouldn't say that worldview is more biblical than any other worldview.
Right.
I think that's just the worldview of someone who's trying to learn from Jesus.
And it's going to look different.
And it's going to look different for each of us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good distinction. I like that. So the distinction between and that they always say the biblical worldview versus a worldview of someone who is trying to follow Jesus versus Jesus's worldview, because it wouldn't be like mine.
Right, that's true.
Right? So I'm trying to look through his heart, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to walk through the desert barefoot and then put on my shoes before I go into a city.
Right.
Right. Because the circumstances are just different.
Yes.
So distinguishing, I think, that's great. I really love what you just said. So distinguishing between the quote-unquote biblical worldview and seeing through the heart and the eyes of God, seeing through the heart and the eyes of Jesus, practicing the practices Jesus did, temple, church, whatever, prayer, solitude, community, fasting, feasting, practicing these things in order to gain connection with God and with others, that turns into a view of the world. But it isn't like you're taking a view of the world, applying it and saying, and now I'm going to get it right.
Yes.
I think that's the thing. And that's the reason that this notion of the biblical worldview should immediately send alarms up for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think so too. Listeners, what do you think? Have you been approached with the biblical worldview? If you have, we'd like to hear about it. You can reach us at cocktailtheology.com. We love your comments. We love your suggestions for episodes and for cocktails. We just love hearing from you.
Yes, we do.
So please do reach out. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to this podcast wherever you happen to be listening to it right now.
Right now.
That would be of great use to us, too.
We would love that. And share us.
Share us.
Because we're fun.
We are fun.
We actually do pretty well at parties. So take
we
us
do.
to a party.
I'll bring the booze and vinyl book. It'll be great.
I'll be clever.
It'll be glad.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be great.
So set aside the parties. We love you. We want to hear from you. Share us if you like anything we're doing. We really appreciate you listening.
We do. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.